Good afternoon, everyone. Andrew Kessler from Washington, D.C. I apologize that I can't be with you live this month, but there's a lot going on, and I do have a time conflict, so I'm sending this video in advance. Actually, my time conflict is that at the time of the ARCO call, I need to be on a call with the White House Office of National Drug Control Policy to discuss recovery-ready workplaces, which of course is a big subject for our community as well. And the White House has some new plans and new ideas on that. They've through their partners developed model legislation for states to certify recovery-ready workplaces, and it's some exciting stuff. So I'll be there, and we'll report back on that next month. So I apologize. I'm doing this recording early in the morning, and the sun is coming in my window, and I have not put up blinds yet because I just haven't gotten around to it. So the lighting's a little weird. Anyway, let's get down to business. And first things first, this month's hat, we changed it up a little bit. As many of you know who have been watching me, I am a really big horse lover. You can see my pictures up there of some of my favorite horses. And this month the hat is for another favorite named Holy Bull, who was a racehorse in the mid-90s, 1994-95, and just a beautiful gray horse. My grandfather always loved gray horses, so he kind of passed that down to me, and he's one of my all-time favorites, Holy Bull. So in any event, on to business. Things in Washington are getting a little, well, I don't want to say getting, are still a little dicey. First and foremost, again, here we are, we're trying to keep the government just open. And you may have read in the news about Speaker Johnson's plan of a two-tiered, or what he calls a laddered, continuing resolution with different time, different expiration dates for CR funding. I believe the proposal would keep the most basic government functions open through January 19th and other agencies open through February 2nd. They want to vote maybe as early as today or tomorrow. It seems to be gaining a little momentum, but it will definitely need bipartisan support because the majority party is still quite fractured on this issue. So we're just going to wait and see. Right now, if I had to bet, which I wouldn't, I think it's going to squeak by. And then from there, of course, we still have the task of, we still haven't seen any major legislation passed for the actual funding of fiscal year 2024, even though we are, by my calculation, 45 days past the start of the fiscal year. And staying on the House, their proposal for Health and Human Services is not great. We're not thrilled with it. There is a little bit of good news in that bill, as good as it can get. I want to be clear about that because it speaks to our voice and our influence. Overall, SAMHSA's budget in the House of Representatives was slated to be cut by somewhere around $200 million, possibly a little more. Within the Center for Substance Abuse Treatment, where most of our programs are located, that department, that center, is scheduled in the House for a cut of $95 million. But our programs on B-Corps, Building Communities of Recovery, peer training and technical assistance, and a few other programs that we really value and advocate for, no cuts. So at the end of the day, everything around us is getting cut, which is bad. We're not happy about it, but our programs are staying safe. So it just, I guess, being first in line for a lifeboat on the Titanic is not the best situation, but it's better than being last. That's the only analogy I can think of. I just wanted to say that because I'm proud of the advocacy we've all done. The advocacy is something we do together. I may be here in D.C., but I always involved our RCOs in our advocacy efforts, especially for funding, and I make sure that our local RCOs have their name front and center when talking to Congress about the importance of programs like B Corps or peer support. So, in other news, non-appropriations related, there's a lot of legislation that's just kind of sitting there waiting to be acted on, and it all hinges on one thing, and that is the reauthorization of the Support Act. This is the bill that was passed 5 years ago. It's kind of a follow-up to CARA, the Comprehensive Addiction Recovery Act. It's important for a lot of reasons. It would include the reauthorization of the state opioid response grants. It would also have reauthorization for things like loan repayment for the SUD workforce. But just as, if not more important, reauthorization is an opportunity to expand the scope of legislation. And that's what we're looking for. And there's a lot of legislation just sitting there that we are supporting to expand the scope of the Support Act. One is the Treats Act, which would expand telehealth services and allow for consultations over telehealth, audio and video, allow for prescribing of things like buprenorphine over audio appointments. We just want to expand access as much as possible to people in need of recovery services. There's also the Medicaid Reentry Act, which we've been working on very hard. Keegan and Lindsay and Phil and the team working very hard on the Reentry Act to assure that people who are leaving incarceration can enroll in Medicaid 30 days before release, so that when they are released, Medicaid is already kicked in and services are available, such as recovery support in 38 states. Recent studies have shown that in rural areas, as many as 50% of people who are released from a rural jail or prison who have an SUD will relapse in the first week, 50%, which is probably no surprise to those of you who work on this issue. So that's an important piece of legislation. And there's the Modernizing Opioid Treatment Access Act, which would reform methadone prescribing and try and increase the number of people who have access to methadone, and increase the number of experts who can prescribe methadone. Right now you have to be employed in an OTP to prescribe methadone. We want to give addiction psychiatrists and addiction medicine specialists, board certified in addiction medicine, the ability to prescribe methadone. It's really just a concept. There hasn't been a change to methadone prescribing in close to 60 years. So it's just time for us to maybe join the 21st century and make methadone a little more accessible for the populations in need. So there's a lot going on, but it all hinges on the Support Act. Though we are hopeful, our fingers are crossed, that in the first week of December, once the Thanksgiving holiday is over, the Senate is going to move in the Health and Human Services Committee on reauthorization. The Finance Committee, which is also responsible for parts of the Support Act because of Medicare and Medicaid, has already had a hearing earlier this week, and they moved some pretty decent legislation concerning Medicare and Medicaid coverage, which I won't get into the details, but let's just say it's moving slowly and it's fairly favorable. It's mostly, I want to be clear, what's coming out of the Senate, the Finance Committee, is really more mental health related. Their focus is on mental health. We tell them not to forget substance use disorder, but that committee and the members on that committee just seem to be really locked in to mental health. That's why we really need the Health and Human Services Committee, where a lot of our champions, like Ranking Member Cassidy of Louisiana and Maggie Hassan of New Hampshire, where they have their say, and they're really more SUD advocates, and we really need them to come through for us. So that's the update for this month. And of course, any questions you can give to Hannah, and she'll get them to me, of course. I wish you all a very happy Thanksgiving. I wish you calm and peacefulness, because let me tell you something, with everything that's going on in the world, we can all use it. So let's just make sure we practice our own self-wellness over the holiday and make sure we're all good, so we are at our best to serve the populations we serve. So with that, I'll sign off. I wish you a happy November, a happy Thanksgiving, and I'll see you next month.